Okay, so you want to be a property acquisitions manager.
Hmm.
Oh, that's awesome. And you want to totally crush that interview, right? We get it. It's a competitive world out there, but no worries. We're here to help. We've been poring over all of RoleCatcher's resources, like their career guide and their interview guide, and even their whole platform overview to give you the best tips and tricks.
It's really not just about memorizing answers. It's about getting what those interviewers really want. You need to really show them why you're the perfect fit. Think about it like strategic storytelling.
I love that strategic storytelling. So the interview guide starts off with this question. What experience do you have in property acquisitions? Seems pretty straightforward, right? But the insights section kind of hints that they're looking for more than just like a list of your past jobs.
Yeah, exactly. They want to see like the scope of your experience. Think back to deals you've closed, projects you've managed, even the hurdles you had to overcome. Really walk them through the process and highlight the challenges and how you handled them. Like, did you deal with due diligence? Did you negotiate any contracts? Bring up those specifics.
Right, that makes sense. They
Yeah.
might even follow up with something like, tell me about a time a deal almost fell through and how you saved it.
Exactly. Be ready to show off your problem-solving skills. And this is where RoleCatcher's AI can really come in handy. It can actually look at job descriptions and pick out which experiences you should really emphasize for each specific role. So you're not just telling your story, you're tailoring it to make the biggest impact.
All right, so next question. What are some of the key skills you possess that make you a suitable candidate for this role? This one feels like they're looking for more than just like a laundry list of skills.
Oh, for sure. It's really about connecting your skills to what they need. If you remember that functions and core abilities section from the career guide, it highlights things like negotiation, financial analysis, market knowledge, all those things that are crucial for this job. You want to make sure you work those into your answer.
So instead of just saying, I'm a great negotiator, I should give them a real-world example. Like, in this recent deal, I negotiated a 10% lower asking price because I had all this market data.
Yes. Show, don't tell, right? And remember those follow-up questions. They love those. They might ask, how do you stay updated on market trends? Or tell me about a time your financial analysis uncovered a hidden risk in a potential deal. You always got to be ready to go deeper.
Okay, this next one just screams strategic thinking. What is your approach to identifying potential properties for acquisition?
This isn't just about browsing listings, okay? This is your chance to show them that you're proactive and you understand their business goals. Do you focus on specific areas or certain types of properties? What about investment strategies? Talk about your research process, how you analyze market trends, and how you see potential for growth.
The insights specifically mentioned building relationships with brokers and sellers.
Oh, yeah, that's huge. A strong network can open doors to off-market opportunities or give you a heads up on deals that are coming up. Talk about how you build those relationships and how they've helped you with acquisitions in the past.
Okay, imagine they follow up with, what's a recent trend you've spotted in the market and how would you use it for acquisitions?
See, that's a great one. They want someone who's not just keeping up with trends, but someone who's ahead of the game. And guess what? RoleCatcher's AI can help you figure out those kinds of follow-up questions based on the job description. It's like having a crystal ball for your interview.
Awesome. Okay, now let's get into the nitty-gritty. How do you evaluate the financial viability of a potential acquisition? This one feels like all about the numbers.
It is, but it's also about showing them you get the big picture. You got to be ready to talk about metrics like net present value return on investment, internal rate of return. And I don't just mean definitions. I mean how you actually use them to figure out risk and profitability.
So instead of just saying, I calculate the ROI,
Yeah.
I should give them an example like, I did this financial analysis and found a potential issue with the property's projected cash flow, so we renegotiated a better price.
Exactly. Tell the story behind those numbers right. And don't be surprised if they ask you to walk me through a specific financial model you've built. Always have a recent example ready to go.
Now for the art of the deal, how do you negotiate deals with brokers and sellers?
This goes way beyond just getting a good price. It's about those relationships and creating those win-win situations. Share your negotiation style, emphasize collaboration, data-driven arguments, building rapport, all that good stuff.
The insights, they talk about finding common ground and making sure everyone feels good about the deal.
Absolutely. Tell a story that shows you can do that. Maybe a time you got a good price, but the seller was still happy, or a time you had to deal with a really tough negotiation.
I bet they could follow up with, tell me about a time you had a compromise during a negotiation and how you made sure everyone benefited.
That's a perfect one. And you know what? You can actually use RoleCatcher's AI to record yourself answering these questions and get feedback on how you sound. It's like having your own personal interview coach.
That's incredible. Okay, let's move on to the legal stuff. What is your experience working with legal professionals in the acquisition process?
With this one, it's all about proving you understand how complicated real estate law can be. Highlight your experience working with lawyers, whether it's drafting contracts, reviewing title documents, or even just being at those closing meetings. Make sure you emphasize your communication skills and your ability to collaborate effectively.
The insights really stress clear communication and being proactive about spotting and handling legal risks.
Exactly. Be ready to talk about your understanding of the rules and regulations and your experience dealing with legal issues that popped up in your past acquisitions.
I can totally see them asking, describe the situation where you had to navigate a complex legal hurdle during an acquisition. What was your role and what was the outcome?
For sure. They want to see how well you can think critically and work with legal teams. And don't forget, RoleCatcher's Career Guide goes into more detail on the legal side of this job, so make sure you brush up on that.
Okay, now on to the juggling act. How do you manage multiple acquisitions simultaneously?
This one's all about being organized and knowing how to manage your time. Walk them through how you prioritize tasks, track progress, and communicate with everyone involved. Do you use any project management tools? Are you good at delegating?
The insights, they emphasize having a system and staying calm under pressure.
Right. Share a time when you successfully juggled a bunch of complex acquisitions at the same time. Maybe a time you had to change priorities or deal with unexpected delays.
I bet they'll ask, what's your system for making sure nothing falls through the cracks when you're managing multiple projects?
That's a good one. You get to show them how detail-oriented you are and how you stay organized even when things are crazy. And remember, RoleCatcher can help you tailor your answer depending on the level of the role you're going for. Entry level might be about assisting with multiple projects, while senior level is about leadership and strategy.
All right, last question in this set, but definitely not the least important. How do you stay up to date with market trends and changes in regulations that may impact acquisitions? It's like they want you to have a real estate crystal ball.
Kind of. They want to see that you're proactive and always learning new things. Don't just say, I read the news, okay. Talk about specific publications. You read industry events. You go to thought leaders you follow. Show them you're serious about this.
The insights talk about using a bunch of different resources from professional organizations to online forums.
Exactly. Show them you're committed to staying ahead of the curve. And don't forget those staying updated tips in the career guide, things like following industry people on social media and setting up alerts for important keywords.
Okay, imagine this follow-up. What's a recent regulatory change that you think will really affect property acquisitions, and how are you preparing for it?
That's a question that really tests how well you know the industry and if you can anticipate changes. And don't forget, RoleCatcher's AI can analyze those job descriptions and pick out the specific regulations or trends that matter to that particular employer.
So you're going in prepared with the most up-to-date knowledge. Okay, we've covered the first 9 questions, but there's still so much more to talk about.
Oh, we've only just scratched the surface. In part 2, we'll dive into more interview questions, explore the career path of a property acquisitions manager, and see how RoleCatcher's AI can help you polish your answers and presentation to really make a great impression. Welcome back to our deep dive into becoming a property acquisitions manager. So in part 1, we tackled those first few interview questions, showing off your experience and that strategic mindset.
Right, and we talked about how RoleCatcher's AI can help you tailor your answers and really nail your presentation style for each specific role. But before we jump into more questions, maybe we should zoom out a bit and look at the bigger picture.
Yeah.
Like, what does a career in this actually look like?
That's a great point. The career guide actually breaks down the typical career stages of a property acquisitions manager from entry level all the way up to those top leadership roles.
Oh yeah, the career stages section. It's like a roadmap showing you how the responsibilities change and what skills you need to level up at each stage.
Exactly. Let's say you're starting out as a property acquisitions assistant. The guide talks about building a strong foundation, helping with market research and supporting those senior managers. It even mentions some typical qualifications like a bachelor's degree in real estate development.
So even at the beginning, you're gaining that valuable experience, setting yourself up for growth later on. Then you move up to property acquisitions coordinator. More responsibility, more complex projects, more directly involved in the financial analysis and communicating with stakeholders.
Right, and at this point, the guide says a master's degree in real estate finance could give you a real advantage. It also mentions certifications like the Certified Commercial Investment Member, or CCIM, which proves you have a deeper understanding of commercial real estate
It's
transactions.
like leveling up your skills.
Ah.
Then you get to senior property acquisitions manager. Now we're talking about leading teams developing those acquisition strategies, making sure everything is legally sound.
And the guide highlights how important an MBA is at this stage, maybe with a focus in real estate management. You might even look into more certifications like the SIRR designation from the Society of Industrial and Office Realtors. It shows that you're really committed to your professional development.
And then finally, you reach the top of the mountain, Director of Property Acquisitions. Now you're the visionary, the one setting the course for the whole team, finding new opportunities, and working with those high-level executives.
At this point, the guide suggests an executive MBA in real estate could be valuable, and certifications like the Certified Property Manager, or CPM, which show your expertise in managing lots of different properties.
It's really cool to see how much the role changes and all the skills you develop along the way. RoleCatcher isn't just about prepping for an interview. It helps you map out your whole career.
Totally. Now, with that career roadmap in mind, let's get back to those interview questions. We left off with, how do you stay up to date with market trends? But even with the best prep, sometimes you get those curveball questions right.
And that's where RoleCatcher's AI can help, right? It can predict potential questions based on the specific job description.
Exactly. It looks at those keywords, the tone, even the company's news and press releases. It's like having inside info. Let's say the job description really emphasizes sustainability in real estate. RoleCatcher might suggest you get ready for a question like, how do you incorporate environmental considerations into your acquisition strategy?
So you're not just ready for the usual questions, you're prepared for those little details that really impress them. Okay, back to more interview prep. The guide mentions that questions about your career goals are really common. Something like, where do you see yourself in 5 years?
This is where you got to connect your goals to what they need. Don't just talk about what you want, tie it back to how the company is growing. Maybe mention a specific area of expertise. You want to develop something that aligns with their future plans.
So instead of saying, I want to be a CEO, I might say, I'm really into sustainable development, and I see myself leading acquisitions in that sector, contributing to the company's commitment to environmentally responsible growth.
Now you're talking, you've shown them you're ambitious, but also that you've done your research and you get their values. Now, those behavioral questions, those are the ones where they ask you to describe a specific situation, right? Those can be tough.
Oh yeah, like, tell me about a time you faced a challenging negotiation. Those always make me nervous.
The key is to use the STAR method: situation, task, action, result. So set the scene, describe the challenge, explain what you did, and highlight the positive outcome. And if you can quantify your results, even better. Did you save the company money? Close the deal early? Those details really matter.
So instead of saying, I successfully resolved the issue, I might say, by using my connections and putting together a really strong financial case, I was able to renegotiate the contract, which saved the company $50,000, and we closed the deal a month ahead of schedule.
Perfect. You've painted a clear picture and shown them the impact you made. And remember, RoleCatcher's AI can actually analyze your answers to these behavioral questions and tell you what you can improve and suggest better ways to say things. It's like having a writing coach for your interview responses.
That's so helpful. Okay, what about those tough questions that feel like they're trying to trick you? Like, what's your biggest weakness?
Don't try to disguise a strength as a weakness. That never works. Instead, pick a real area where you're trying to improve and explain how you're working on it. Maybe you're a little too detail-oriented, which can slow you down, but you're learning to delegate more and focus on the bigger picture.
So you turn a potential negative into a positive, showing that you're self-aware and want to grow.
Exactly. And RoleCatcher's Career Guide has even more tips for handling these kinds of questions. It even suggests turning the question around to focus on areas where you're actively developing your skills.
I like that proactive approach.
Okay.
What about questions about salary expectations? Those always feel a little awkward.
Do your research. Use websites like Glassdoor or Salary.com to see what the typical salary range is for this role in your area. Be ready to talk about your expectations, but be flexible and open to negotiation too.
The insights in the interview guide say it's important to tie your salary expectations to the value you bring to the company.
Right. Highlight your skills, your experience, your track record of success. If you've consistently gone above and beyond in your past roles, don't be afraid to say it. You deserve to be compensated for that.
And remember, RoleCatcher can help you personalize your responses for the specific company and role. You can research their financials, their compensation philosophy, even the experience level of other people on the team.
It's like having a secret weapon. You go in with all the knowledge you need to negotiate like a pro. Okay, we've talked a lot about interview questions. What about that last moment when they ask, do you have any questions for me?
Oh, yeah. I always feel like I need a brilliant question, but then my mind goes blank.
The key is to prepare. Write down a few questions beforehand that show you're really interested and you've been thinking about this. Ask about their current projects, their biggest challenges in the property acquisitions market, or their vision for the future. It shows you've done your research and you're thinking strategically.
What about questions about the company culture or professional development opportunities?
Those are great. It shows you're thinking long term and want to build a career with them, not just get a job. You could ask about their mentorship programs, their approach to work-life balance, or even what they're doing to support diversity and inclusion.
It shows you're not just looking for any job, you're looking for the right fit.
Exactly. Those final questions are your last chance to really make an impression, so make them count.
Okay, so we're back for the final part of our deep dive into prepping for that property acquisitions manager interview. In parts 1 and 2, we really dug into those tough questions you might face, explored the career path, and saw how RoleCatcher's AI can be a total game changer.
Yeah, we've covered a lot of ground, but there are still a few things to keep in mind before you walk into that interview room.
Right. Like, we've talked about what you should say, but what about those things you should absolutely avoid saying? You know, those interview landmines?
Oh, definitely. A big one is bad-mouthing your old bosses or coworkers. It just makes you look unprofessional and negative.
Yeah, that makes sense. Even if you had a rough time, focus on what you learned and how it helped you grow.
Another common mistake is not doing your research on the company or the role. You got to do your homework. Check out their website, read some recent articles, understand what they're working on and what their goals are.
It shows you're really interested and you took the time to prepare. You know, I'm totally guilty of rambling in interviews when I get nervous. Any tips on how to keep my answers short and sweet?
Structure is key. Before you launch into a story, quickly outline the situation, what you did, and the results you got. It'll help you stay focused and make a bigger impact.
So it's like a mini presentation within the interview.
Hmm.
I like that. Okay, what about those last few minutes when they ask, do you have any questions for me? It feels like such a make or break moment.
It is. This is your chance to show them that you're engaged, curious, and thinking beyond the basics. Have a few good questions ready to go.
Like what kind of questions would really wow them?
Ask about their current projects or the biggest challenges they're facing in the property acquisitions market or even their vision for the future. It shows you've done your research and you're thinking strategically.
I also think it's good to ask about professional development or how they approached mentorship. It shows you're thinking long-term and want to build a career there, not just hop from job to job.
Exactly. And don't forget about company culture. You can ask about how they work together, their commitment to sustainability, or what they're doing to create a diverse and inclusive workplace.
It shows you're not just looking for a paycheck, you're looking for the right environment. Okay, so we've talked a lot about interview skills, but I know confidence is a huge part of it too. How can you project that I got this attitude?
Honestly, the best way to be confident is to be prepared. The more you research, practice, and perfect your answers, the more confident you'll feel going in.
It's like anything else, the more you put in, the more you get out. And that's where RoleCatcher really comes in handy. Their AI tools can help you figure out your strengths, tailor your resume, and practice those tough questions until you nail them.
Don't forget about their AI feedback system. It can look at your answers, suggest better phrasing, and even help you work on your delivery. It's like having a personal coach in your pocket.
So with RoleCatcher and all the advice we've shared, you're walking into that interview ready to rock it.
Absolutely. But there's one more thing that can really set you apart: passion. Let your enthusiasm for real estate shine through. Talk about why you're drawn to this field, what excites you about property acquisitions, and how you want to make a positive impact.
Yeah, it's that spark that makes you memorable and helps you stand out.
Remember, you got this. Take a deep breath, trust in your preparation, and let that passion guide you.
We've given you a ton of information in this deep dive, but now it's time to take action. Don't just listen to this episode, use it. Go sign up for a free RoleCatcher account. Start working on your resume and practice those interview questions.
Knowledge is power, and with the right prep, you can land that dream property acquisitions manager job. We're rooting for you.
This is The Deep Dive signing off. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep diving deep.